Good, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to call the regular city commission meeting of April 21st, 2026 to order and ask all of you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Steinhardt,
Present.
Commissioner Elder,
Present.
Commissioner Olsman,
Present.
Commissioner Rozelle,
Present.
Mayor Paul present. Approval of the agenda. Before we get a motion to do that, I would like to add item number 10, which will be a discussion regarding city interactions with federal agencies. We have a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Communications, do we have a motion to receive and file communications?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Elected officials remarks. Not seeing any elected officials, so we'll move on to proclamations. We have one proclamation this evening. It is a proclamation declaring the month of May as Jewish American Heritage Month in the city of Huntington Woods. Whereas Huntington Woods is home to a vibrant and long-standing Jewish community that has played a vital role in shaping the cultural, civic, and social fabric of the city. And whereas Huntington Woods has one of the highest proportions of Jewish residents of any municipality in Michigan, reflecting a deeply rooted and active Jewish communal presence. And whereas Jewish Americans have made enduring contributions to the United States in fields including public service, education, business, science, the arts, and social justice, strengthening the ideals of freedom, equality, and opportunity. And whereas for 45 years, every president of the United States has declared a period of time for celebrating the contributions to the United States of the Jewish community's history, heritage, and cultural. And since 2006, the month of May has been presidentially declared to be Jewish American Heritage Month, pursuant to a bipartisan resolution of Congress. And whereas the Jewish community has demonstrated resilience in the face of historical challenges and continues to contribute meaningfully to the promotion of understanding, compassion, and civic engagement. And whereas incidents of anti-Semitic violence and rhetoric are still prevalent in our country and in Michigan, including the recent terrorist attack against Temple Israel in West Bloomfield. Whereas Huntington Woods benefits from the leadership, philanthropy, community involvement of its Jewish residents who help foster a welcoming, inclusive, and engaged city. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the city of Huntington Woods hereby proclaims the month of May 2026 as Jewish American Heritage Month. And be it further resolved that all residents are encouraged to recognize and celebrate the contributions of Jewish Americans through education, reflection, and community engagement, and to reaffirm our shared commitment to diversity, mutual respect, and inclusion. Adopted this 21st day of April 2026. Public participation is next. This is an opportunity for the public to address the City Commission for an item that is not on the agenda. Please come forward to the podium.
So here again, I'm 13366 Victoria Avenue. I'm here to thank the City Commission for recognizing April as the Arab American Heritage Month. So thank you so much. It means a lot to the residents in the city of Arab American descent, and it's consistent with the all are welcome here. Also, we want to thank the library. The library is hosting an event on Monday, April 27th at 5:30 at the library at the Woods Gallery. It's celebrating Detroit's Arab Americans. So we have flyers here. They are also available at the library. There are gonna be displays, exhibits, a speaker, short films, and most important are good food. So please come and join us celebrating, and thank you so much again for doing the proclamation. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. I forgot to mention, this isn't in regards to your comments, but we have a lot of people in the audience tonight, so we are using our 2-minute timer to keep things moving along. So try and keep to that. Thank you very much.
Good evening, I'm Sid Garden, 13307 Vernon. I just want to know, under communications, when the city gets something from any committee or from any citizen, what happens to it? Is it available on our website? Is the content of the statement available, or is it sent out to citizens or available in any place? Because I would like it to be. We think we made an important statement. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
I know I look crazy right now, too. Hi, Sarah Gutierrez, 10415 Lincoln. I'm also on the Planning Commission. I am here to talk about the inline rink at Bill Jones Park. In August, I had renderings made and was very involved in Parks and Rec to share these renderings and work together with Park District to figure out how we can improve this park. And I thought that we had really gotten somewhere, but it seems like it's come up again, that the rink wants to be torn out. So I had someone from Superior Sports come out and look at the rink and assess everything, and essentially it can be repaired. And it does not, the cement does not need to be ripped up. They can fix all of these cracks. Melissa was also there at this conversation as well. And they have a specific surface that goes over it that has a 20-year warranty. So it would guarantee that it would be lasting for a long time. I think that this park would be really beneficial for teenagers, which there's really not a space for them in this neighborhood. We cater more to younger kids and older kids, and this kind of in-between, doesn't really have a space to hang out. So I just really wanted to figure out how we can work together to make this happen. The community has signed a petition. There's 560 people that have signed this so far. So there's definitely the support. There's also an inline skate rink Facebook page that has, I think, 228 members on it. And adding to that, there's a lot that the rec center could do to create inline roller hockey leagues. There's also a new NHL street hockey league that's starting. It's the same people that do the NFL flag football. They're starting this. There's skate clinics, birthday parties, just so many things that we could do in this space. And there's a lot of hockey players, and you don't have to necessarily rollerblade either. You can play street hockey on there. And as far as the insurance that came up, we address all of those things in this estimate, and it is very fixable and pretty minor amount of work that needs to be done. So I just wanted to share that with you, and hopefully we can discuss this further before just eliminating it. Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much everyone for your time. I'm Jennifer Borson at 10805 Lincoln Drive, and I'll be talking about the Val Jones rink as well. The second spring hit, our daughter Ava begged us to go to her beloved rink. She went straight there only to be locked out. After coming home, she had to search online to find out the day the rink usually opens for the season and made a countdown to opening day. Just a couple days later, she was crushed to find out that opening day may never come. She was excited about not a video game, movie, or a cell phone, but an activity that is great for both mental and physical health, hockey. Hockey is growing rapidly, especially for young girls. Both the U.S. men's and women's hockey teams continue to inspire the next generation of players, with both teams receiving gold medals this year. The Professional Women's Hockey League, or PWHL, has brought new excitement and visibility to the sport, making its debut in 2023. Detroit was home to several PWHL games with 15,000 people at the last game at LCA. Me, Ava, hockey teammates, and families made up over 100 of these people. This is a great way to support female athletes. We also can't forget the NHL, or Red Wings. The NHL even did a collaboration this year with Disney Pixar and showed a cartoon version of a hockey game with characters from the movie Inside Out to promote kids and hockey. For girls like Ava, hockey is more than a sport. It teaches discipline, teamwork, confidence, resilience, and leadership. It gives kids a healthy outlet, keeps them active, and provides a sense of community. The Val Jones Inline Rink is a special place in Huntington Woods because it gives children the opportunity to experience all of that close to home. I respectfully ask you to please reconsider demolishing this treasured community asset. The rink matters deeply to the children and families in our city. I know it matters to Ava. I would be grateful for the opportunity to help in any way to preserve and improve the Val Jones Inline Rink. Is that okay if I think was that 2 minutes? Okay, all right. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. I appreciate it.
Good evening, I'm Josh Borson at 10805 Lincoln Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I am also here to ask the city to reconsider closing the inline hockey rink. The rink is more than just a place to play hockey. It is one of the few affordable, accessible places for kids and families in our beloved community to be active, spend time outside, and connect with each other. Hockey is growing across the country, not shrinking. Youth participation is at a record high, and Michigan has more than 40,000 registered hockey players, making it one of the largest hockey states in the country. USA Hockey has reported year-over-year growth over the last 3 years, and youth hockey nationwide is at an all-time high. The recent Olympics showed just how popular hockey has become. The men's gold medal game was the most watched sporting event outside of prime time in all of history. The women's gold medal game was the most watched female sport ever. Kids are inspired now. This is exactly the time when communities should be expanding access to hockey and not taking it away. But not every family can afford organized hockey. It can cost around $2,000 to $3,000 a season once you include equipment, travel, and ice time. Inline hockey is different. There are no ice fees, no travel teams required, and far less costs involved. For many families, this rink is the entry point into hockey, and for some kids, it's the only realistic way they can play. If this rink closes, there are very few alternatives nearby. Most remaining options are 20 to 50 minutes away. They're indoor, fee-based, and not practical to everyday pickup play. None of these are free neighborhood spaces where kids can just grab a stick, head over with friends, and play. The rink did not fail because it's unpopular or because nobody used it. It failed because routine maintenance was not done. Outdoor inline hockey rinks are inexpensive to maintain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Rusk, 10120 Hart Avenue. I lived here for 13 years. What makes our community amazing is the amount of collaboration that goes into making it amazing. And one of the things I just want to say with the Val Jones Park is that we need to collaborate. We need to all work as a team to deliver to an underserved area, which is our preteens to teens, right? They have a place to play, they have a place to hang out, they have a place that they can be off their tablets. And I think that's very important for that age group. They're not socializing on social media, they're actually face to face. We don't have the amount of facilities that can facilitate that. However, I think the biggest thing here is that we need to come together as a community, which makes this place amazing, and have facilities like this to continue the beacon of Huntington Woods. That's why I propose that if we move forward with redoing the Val Jones Park, we keep the inline park and we name it after Doug. Because Doug is a beacon in our community. Doug lost his life serving our community. He's a hockey guy, he has kids, there's a way to make this right. Doug at DPW took numerous phone calls from me, as I'm sure you all can imagine, but in order to continue our amazing community and to pay homage to a gentleman like that who also was part of this community, I think it would be smart to name it after him and find a solution to have an inline park. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Dave Fasano from 25896 Salem. So when the master plan came out, the preliminary plan, I read through it. I don't know how many people did, but I did. And I saw that the rink was, the consultant said to invest in the rink and to preserve it. And then the master plan, the final version came out and it was just silent on the issue. And I really didn't realize that there had been controversy, and looked into it a little bit more, and it sounds like there's really maybe one very noisy neighbor that's upset about it. And I understand that. And I used to live right behind Monarch Market, which used to be a liquor store, little grocery store. And you know what? When I bought that house, I knew there could be issues. And every now and then I'd get a little trash in my backyard. But I bought that house. And if you buy a house next to a park, you could have some noise. But that's why we're in Huntington Woods. There's noise by the pool, there's noise by the tennis courts, there's noise by the pickleball courts. I was walking through the neighborhood last night, there were kids yelling down the street, and it was great. We're a community of active people who are outside, and yeah, it's gonna make a little noise. And I think we've gotta look at what's best for the community, not what's best for an individual or two, because that's what you do. You support the majority and you respect the minority. So you have a minority that doesn't like it, you respect them, but you support the majority's wishes. I'm gonna tell a quick story. During COVID, I coached a girls hockey team. They're not a ton of them, but there's starting to be more, and we had very few options on things we could do, and this was during the summer, and the only place I could get them together was outside of that rink. So they weren't all residents in Huntington Woods, some were, but I would bring them there and they could practice and be together, and there's very few resources like that. And there was a guy there shooting pucks, and I could tell he was pretty strong. I said, you know, what do you play for? And he said, the Ontario Kings. That was Drake Grimshaw, who ended up making the NHL, at least played a few games, and the girls got a connection with an NHL player. I would like to see a pavilion over the rink to keep the noise down and to help preserve it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Luther, 13160 Kingston. I'm just here to say that I would like to see the reimagining of that park. I am a lifelong hockey player, but I think it could serve the community better in a different capacity, and my wife will put it in better words than I can. But my daughter wrote a statement that she wants to read. You got it? You don't have to, Everly Luther, same address, 13160 Kingston. Okay.
My name is Everly Luther, and I live at 13160 Kingston. My house is right next to Val Jones Park. I am very sensitive to sounds, and sometimes the noises from the hockey rink are so loud that I have to wear my headphones in my own backyard. I don't like the yelling or swearing I hear from the park because it is not appropriate for me to hear. I would be happy for the rink to be made into something better. I hope Val Jones Park becomes a place where I can play and feel safe to visit. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll write it down real quick.
Hi, Elliot Luther, also 13160 Kingston. I'd just like to say, I also live directly diagonal from Val Jones. And whether I'm outside with friends, my sister, or in my room, which is on the far side of my house away from the park, the noise is disturbing. And, I think it should not be affecting me inside my own home, the noise. I think the closing of the rink is very important because the park is and should be viewed as a place for young kids to teens to enjoy themselves, a place where everybody is welcomed. Instead of trash, graffiti, and a putrid porta-john, it should be nice, maintained, and inviting. I'd love to be able to have a park close to my house where I can go anytime with anyone and not be disturbed by screaming, swearing, and trash. When I imagine in a park in a nice city like this, I imagine family and friends having fun in a nice, clean, maintained, safe environment. And when I look at Val Jones, I do not see that. I see 10-foot-tall prison fences, a rundown unsafe rink, and unkept grounds. I would hate to see a friend or family member get hurt at such an unsafe park. Also, thank you to City Commission for taking these problems seriously and recommending turning the rink into an exciting new space. That is a statement I 100% agree with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lyle Schwarzer, and I live at 10764 LaSalle Boulevard. To me, I believe that Huntington Woods is a city of diversity. All over Huntington Woods, there are a lot of different parks that have created for kids different values. Yes, some parks might give others a different perspective of the people that are there and play there, but I also think that there should be the diversity that's kept. And a lot of people in Huntington Woods, they like the fact that they can teach their kids how to play a different sport. They can go run a track, they can go play football, go play baseball, and I think hockey is an expensive sport. I play junior hockey, and it is super expensive, but I think roller hockey is a great way to develop. It's a great way to have fun as you develop, because a lot of sports you can burn out, and I think just by having this cheap opportunity, it will create a more engaged audience in it. And I think the park itself, yes, it can be dirty, but I think it's not going to change from its demolishment. I think that even if there will be a different sort of park, the noise will still be there, but it'll be different. And this noise, it's at every single park in every single neighborhood. And I think it's what makes it unique and feel home to people. And I believe the benefit of it can be it being cleaned up. And maybe if it gets cleaned up, and as previously stated, it is a little bit messy, but that cleanness can encourage more people to go, encourage more people to be active. And this collaboration can create active youth that will help more residents in Huntington Woods want to be here, want to be more active, and enjoy their stay here, I guess. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'll keep this short. I have no prepared statement like all these wonderful statements that people gave because I just came up here on a whim. I was available. But I wanted to provide my support. By the way, I'm Joe Buckwitz. I live at 12943 Borgman and previously on Sherwood. I lived in the city about 20 some odd years. And I personally have skated at the park. My son has skated at that park. He's 20 years old. He's playing recreational hockey up in Houghton, Michigan. So he's gained a lifelong sport by being able to go up and play at that rink. He didn't play organized hockey growing up. All he did is play up at that rink, and he's got a sport that he'll take for the rest of his life. So I just want to provide my 2 cents in support of that rink and keep the rink going. I know we've supported it in the past from the men's club's perspective to try to repair it. And I really think we should keep that tradition alive. And I really like the idea of naming it after Doug, so I wanted to put my support in on that as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Marie Defer. I live at 13307 Talbot Avenue. I just want to get on the radars, the commission's radar, a bunch of working parents have questions and concerns, not about the skate park, but about Latchkey and Kid Zone. I personally am super excited that Kid Zone is taking over, and that, to me, that meant that more students could get services, and we would open the program to kids not just in Huntington Woods, but who also go to Burton. But we've been told that Kid Zone won't do an info session. We're hoping that will change. And I'm sorry, didn't have time to prepare remarks, but I just want to share with you guys some of the changes. The cost is significantly more. We were told the Kid Zone capacity is 72 kids, but tonight we counted at the Latchkey sign out. They have sign out sheets where they have all the kids' names. There's 95 kids in Huntington Woods Latchkey. I don't know, I haven't had that verified with leadership, but it seems like a downgrade that we would offer less slots to Burton kids. Currently, kids in Latchkey can attend Parks and Rec classes, which run 3:30 to 4:15 or 4:30. Then they return to Latchkey. This is really great because it ensures that kids in the community with working parents can utilize those classes. Under Kid Zone policy, kids can attend those rec center classes, but they can't come back to Kid Zone. So that means if you are a child and you want to participate in a program, your parent has to pick you up at 4:15. So that doesn't work for a lot of families. Kid Zone ends at 4:30, Kid Zone ends at 5:30, Latchkey ends at 6 p.m. I work in New Center, I work until 5, I can't get here at 5:30. But overall, we're really hopeful that there's some flexibility. We can work with the rec center and Kid Zone to help working parents. But FYI, you might be hearing from us. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, Lori Lisi, 13110 Hart. The thing I was going to talk about got moved to the end, but since I know I'm going to have 2 minutes, I wanted to add in things that didn't apply to the engagement with federal immigration. I wanted to thank the commissioners who responded to emails I sent after the last meeting. I really appreciate you engaging with residents outside of meetings. It really reinforces that small town feel that we all value. Second thing I wanted to say is I baked cookies again. So anybody who, I don't want to wait to the end, everybody's gone. There's brownies out there.
Can you bring him in here?
I can bring them in here. Last time I did bring them in and pass them around. They have pecans, so if you can't do nuts,
Charlie's got you.
apologize.
Good public servant right there.
Out there early.
All right.
Thanks.
Hi, Ellie Mosco, 8376 Huntington Road. I wanted just to add to what Lori said, and something that I touched on at the last meeting. I'm glad that, some members of this body did respond to Lori. I've had an experience where I've had several members of this body not respond to my communications on several occasions. And as a resident reaching out, I understand that you all have busy lives and have other activities, but so do we. And when we take the time to reach out, it's really rude to just not respond. And as elected officials, I expect a lot more. And I know I'm not the only one, so I wanted to put it out there. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, I'm Chris Lally, 10. Oh, sorry. Sorry, that's okay. Chris Lally, 1005 Elgin. I am not a hockey player. Neither are my kids, neither is my husband. But I know a lot of hockey players in town, and I also see a ton of kids at that park all the time. And having teens, they need a place to go. And so I would just like to say I would love to keep it. And I echo the sentiments of one of the speakers that when you buy a house, you look around. I live on a corner, almost a very busy corner of Lincoln. I knew it would be busy. I knew there would be traffic. I knew there would be honking the horn and almost accidents. So those things are known when we move in, and I don't think we should make a decision on specifically the people that live right next to the space. Rather make a decision on the group. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public participation?
Hi, this is regarding the rink. My name is Lori Dwan. I've lived in the community 42 years. We started on Hart Street, right across from Burton School, and we used to hear the skateboards hit Burton School, hit all the skateboarders were noisy, loud, everything. Anyway, I ended up on Parks and Recreation Board, and I voted in favor of the skate park when I was on the board 20 years ago. At that time, there was a place needed for children sorely needed for children to skate instead of the Burton School steps, railings, the surrounding areas. So that's why the skate park was approved by us. We thought, in my mind's eye, of children playing and enjoying the skate park. Unfortunately, after time has gone on, we moved to 13160 LaSalle, across from the skate park. Unfortunately, the rink's become a place for many who are not from Huntington Woods, older men, like 40s and their 50s, that have these games, and they're parking all along Berkeley Street. These are not people that are skateboarding to the park or on their inline skates to the park from the neighborhood. They are from other places. As far as Grand Rapids, I have heard. So anyway, they climb the fence after hours to get into the park. The police have to come repeatedly. I think the police have come more than probably half the time the park is open. The police are always there at night and for different reasons. Anyway, it's really not used, I think, the way it was intended by me and the people on Rec Board that really were in favor of that park. My husband and I are in complete support. My husband Jim is here tonight. of the total removal of this rink and to make it used for the teddy bear picnic that we used to have. It was quiet, things like that. It's please help us repurpose the park. It's just gotten to be too much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Jessica Downey, and I live at 13160 Kingston, and I'm the noisy neighbor that was referred to by another speaker. On July 29, 2025, a petition titled Preserve Vale Jones Park for the Huntington Woods community was launched and later presented to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board as evidence of resident support. However, the petition's own data contradicts that claim. It explicitly required signers to attest to living in Huntington Woods, Michigan. Yet over 30% of the signers do not live in Huntington Woods. When a petition requires residency but includes a significant number of non-residents, it ceases to reflect community support, instead becomes a misrepresentation of it. The petition was revived following the April 6 announcement of rink closure, and I'm sure was presented again to you tonight. But the core issue remains unchanged. With the additional signatures, 560 and counting at this point, the true percentage of non-resident signers is likely even higher than the 30% originally reported. A deviation of this magnitude directly undermines its credibility. Additionally, the petition describes the park as accommodating, vibrant, and a safe, inclusive environment, calling for the facilities to remain just as they are today. But those descriptions do not reflect reality. Maintaining status quo means preserving a facility that is dilapidated, unsafe, and poorly maintained. The most serious issue is safety, as the rink has repeatedly failed inspection. In 2023, the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority conducted a formal review and recommended closure of the rink until hazards were addressed or a decision to permanently close the rink was made. Despite this, it remained open. Findings included large cracks on the skating surface and along the boards, creating trip hazards, lack of drainage causing deterioration and creating cracks and pop-outs leading to injury, unsafe fencing with exposed sharp metal edges that may cause blunt force head trauma, and the fencing and posts requiring full replacement. Has that really been 2 minutes? Isn't it normally 3? Anyway, remove from park. Stick to your word. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
I just have one question. Jim Rusk, 10120 Hart Avenue. How many of the soccer players that participate on our field at Sox are not residents?
I'm not allowed to speak again.
Just, sorry, I didn't know the rules. I'm not here every night.
Hi, Tony Gerbino, 10745 LaSalle Boulevard. Yeah, to reiterate Jim's point, I guess that would be a question I would ask also, because when I think about some of the things that we're trying to do is bringing people into the community, right? You know, we have, when we talk about the percentages of people that are not residents coming into play on a, you know, on a skating rink, I think about it, okay, so does that also include things such as the 4th of July, right? I'm a little biased. My son's a hockey player at Brother Rice High School. He's been playing on that rink for years. You know, it seems as if, you know, when we talk about the issues, and the issues about the noise, is this about the skating rink, or is this about the skating bowl? I think those attract two different crowds. And when we talk about the upkeep of the rink itself, well, then maybe that's something where the funds should have been allocated many years ago to keep it up, because maybe that's shame on us. So that's about all I got, but I'm very much in favor of keeping the rink.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'm going to close public participation, and I see that our county commissioner has arrived, so I'm going to go back a step and give him an opportunity to address the commission.
I thought 7:35 was close enough to 7:30. My apologies. Good evening, everyone. I'm Charlie Gabel, our county commissioner. Hello. I have a couple of quick updates for you from the county. But before I do, I just want to make sure that I give the proper honor and respect to Doug. I did not know him, but from what I've read, he was a really important part of the community. Some updates. Since I last came before you about a year ago, there's an update on assessing contracts that has been a big topic between the county and Huntington Woods. Over half of the communities that use the county for assessing have since left, so I just want to lift that up as something.
When they raised the price 140%, what were we supposed to do?
Boy, you said it.
Okay. You know I was going to.
A long pause for effect. It's in the notes. Currently I'm working on with our probate court on a program with the Michigan Health Endowment Fund for a guardianship diversion program, because as I'm sure all of us know or will know, the probate court handles guardianships for older adults, and so there can be a few off-ramps, but you have to prepare for those, and you have to have a court that's able to accommodate that. So working with the Michigan Health Endowment Fund and the probate court, I was able to help fill out a grant for them that hopefully it can allow us to replicate what they do in Bay County and Grand Traverse County, to make it so that when we have to take care of our older adult family members, there's a couple steps before guardianship, and it makes the experience nicer and better. I want to lift up, at our last county commission meeting, just to flag this, the county commission, I think you're going to see more of this coming around to local communities in ways. The county commission voted to put gun lockers in some of the schools where the sheriff is the police, as a way to, in theory, to be able to get to those guns faster if there's an active shooter incident. But this is a thing that's like kind of proliferating around, the idea that gun storage lockers are somehow making schools safer. And then also another thing is the county voted to put, give the sheriff drones to co-respond to 911 calls paid for by Flock Systems. So those were two big things that happened at the last county meeting. And then I want to also lift up some cool Huntington Woods people. I've been working with a guy named Fred Feckheimer. I think some of you know him. So he's badass.
He's awesome.
Hell yeah. So him and I think also Peggy Pitt, but Pitt, McGee, Rivers, the law firm, right? I don't know if all of those, the Pitt, the McGee, and the Rivers all live here, but I know Peggy Pitt does. But with Fred and Pitt, McGee, Rivers, I worked with them on the last couple of years on like this home payday loan scam that was going around, and Fred put a stop to it, and he let me help out. So next time you see Fred, tell him thanks. And he's working on more stuff like that. So it's really cool that, you know, Huntington Woods is so stacked with justice warriors. Happy to take any questions if you want.
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Mayor. On the school gun locker, can you, do you know, like, what is their reasoning for? I'm not following, like, wouldn't the sheriff have their own guns?
Yeah, so
why does it have to be in the schools?
Right, so the thinking is these are in schools where the Oakland County Sheriff is already a school resource officer, so a police officer with a gun on their hip. And the thinking is if you have a locker that's holding the guns that are in, the long guns that are in the sheriff's cars, that the 3 to 4 minute response time that is the average sheriff response to a call, where they would drive up to a place with their long guns in the car, might be too long, and that the pistol would not be adequate enough. And so having a locker in one part of a school would allow for faster, bigger response with bigger weapons. And I will mention that when Oxford was given this opportunity by the sheriff's office, they turned it down, calling it performative public safety. But in some of the schools that Oakland County still is the police for, we voted to put those in last week. But this is a thing that seems to be like a growing trend.
So does that impact Berkeley schools?
Yes. So we'll talk to them.
I had one question, Mr. Mayor. One comment too. You're doing a great job in Pontiac. Appreciate all your efforts there. One thing is, I know a lot of times communities can make asks of the county to kind of help with funding.
Yeah.
I know we have our July 4th fireworks coming up.
Yeah.
So if our city manager connects with you, maybe we get an appropriation, help pay for the fireworks.
I would love to talk about it. I hope I still have that kind of pull, but I'll see what I can do.
I know you do.
Good looking out.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our regular items of business. Our first item is a presentation. Melissa, I'm going to turn it over to you regarding Great Lakes landscaping.
Thank you. Good evening. So Andrew asked me to provide this brief overview just because there were some questions about the contract and what was being used and where it was being used. So this is just a brief overview. And as a reminder, I do believe we're planning to go out to bid for landscaping services in the fall. So this is the contract that gets us through our fall cleanup, and then we'll go out to bid. So our current contract, this is, the basic maintenance they perform. It's the cutting, trimming, whipping. They do a big spring cleanup for us in the spring, including mulch and our playground mulch, which is great. They do bed maintenance. They are not supposed to touch our adopted garden beds, so we're keeping a close eye on that, but that seems to be going well. And then they do a fall cleanup for us as well. The fertilizer that I'll talk about in a second is not part of the regular contract. It's an add-on, so that's a sort of a separate component, but something we are looking at. For the properties, it's essentially all the city properties. It's our parks, our building grounds, the road medians and boulevards, the street islands, and rights-of-way along our major roads. So the fertilizer, we have 5 planned applications, potentially starting next week. Just a little, the purpose of fertilizer is for rapid greening and long-term feeding to increase the strength of the roots and the density of the grass. So the locations where we are fertilizing are City Hall, DPW, DPS, the Rec Center front lawn, Men's Club Field, Scotia Park, and LaSalle Boulevard. Those are the only places that fertilizer is planned to go down for this year. Historically, we've done weed and feed at those locations, so they've added an herbicide to the fertilizer. We're not going to do that this year, and we're going to see how it goes with just the fertilizer, especially for these first couple treatments. If the weeds get out of control or become a problem, they can always add it in to future treatments, and we can work on curbing the weeds that way. But it sounded like there was maybe some concern about that, and it's easy to remove and just fertilize and see how we feel that looks for the city. I just wanted to add that it is important, fertilizer is important for high traffic areas, and it really is important for sports fields. If you get a lot of weeds in sports fields, they do succumb more to like heavy foot traffic, and then they create bald spots, it creates hard dirt, it creates trip hazards and bare spots in the lawn. So we do feel that it's important to have a safe and consistent playing surface at Men's Club Field. Kevin and myself have been in close contact with the Great Lakes staff, and they are going to work with us to make sure that any application won't affect any events or programs or games that go on. It does require staying off the grass for 24 hours, and it is the granules, not the spray. I know some folks had asked about that. If anyone wants the details of the fertilizer, this is what it is that they're putting down. It's a 2905 fertilizer, so there's no phosphorus, which is great. It's considered lake safe. It's approved by the Friends of the Rouge, so that is good. There was some confusion about what it meant that it's an organic-based grower fertilizer, and that organic-based, it's different than like, you're buying organic fruit, like it's a different connotation. It essentially means that there's binders in it that improve the effectiveness of those organic compounds and help it work better. So the fertilizer stimulates the microbial activity in the soil, which allows those microbes to break down larger quantities of organic matter and get more food to the roots of the grass. So just a quick note on herbicide, we're not going to be using it, at least for these first couple. It's something we can reassess as a community further into the summer if we decide it's something that is really needed in certain areas. The gardens are hand weeded. There's no herbicide in any gardens or broadcast on the turf. Like I said, we may readdress it at Men's Club Field if it becomes an issue. We are looking at proposals to do some aggressive overseeding at Men's Club Field as another way to sort of strengthen that grass there that might help keep some of the weeds out. If we have the funding for that, that's something we might do. And just to note that there are, limited selective broadleaf herbicides that target the weeds and not the grass that are considered organic or natural. They don't work as well, but they do work, and that's something that if we go out to bid, we could potentially bid as an alternate and see if somebody wants to provide that and what they have to say about it. So I think that's something that we would consider. And that is all I have for you.
Okay. Any comments from the audience? Please come forward.
Hi, Ellie Mosco again, 8376 Huntington Road. Just want to thank you again for taking the concerns of the residents about this seriously, thinking about some of the parks you've mentioned. You've got Scotia Park recs that are long, kids are rolling around there all summer. So I just am appreciative for, taking that seriously and keeping that in mind. Thanks.
Thank you.
Moira Baker, 10545 LaSalle Boulevard. I just have a question. Last year I called regarding the dandelions that were on the park. We spent a lot of money to get that grass sodded, and the dandelions were out of control there last year. I have no problem if we decide not to do a herbicide, but I do think it should be going out to a vote. Some of us on the street do want herbicides on that, and to take a blanket approach as to that's what we all want on the street is very undemocratic. And I think it should be up to the citizens to make the determination, not just a blanket statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, this is one where for years sitting up here, I got emails, calls, complaints about, the condition of parks, the condition of boulevards, the condition of the landscaping, et cetera, on city property. And we made a commitment to bring Great Lakes on board. And since we've done that, though that feedback has gone down drastically. And I think that, this is a long game here. They've taken a lot of steps initially that have been very positive, enhancing the landscaping, maintaining the grass cutting a lot better than the prior company that we had to terminate our relationship with. I did get a lot of complaints from residents about weeds, dandelions, whatnot, in the boulevards, in the parks. I think that for the most part, what's occurred in the past has remedied that. So I'm not opposed to taking this approach where we see how this works out. Like you said, we're going with, potential overseeding, something that doesn't have a herbicide. Let's see now that we have it under control, if it stays under control, right? And then I think that's a win-win for everybody. I learned about this job that if half the people aren't mad at you, you ain't doing something right. You know what I'm saying? So some people are gonna say, I want this, some people are gonna say, I don't. It's our job to come up with some type of compromise. This is representative government. It's not about what I want, it's about what the people want. And so that's what we're here to do. And so I think this is a good starting point, and I appreciate the city manager and our parks director, the effort that you've put into doing your research and the RFP and all of that. So thank you very much.
Okay. Any other comments? Thanks again for the update. Moving on to item number 2 is a matter of considering approval of the contract with Living LAB for park planning and design services in the amount of $25,000. Melissa.
Thank you. We have some master plans to do. So the 5-year recreation plan, I will say it is fairly common for a 5-year recreation plan to not go into the nitty-gritty of detailed master plans for parks, but recommend that that be the next step. So that's what we want to do next. We want to do a full master plan for Val Jones Park, knowing that no decisions have been made, and it'll be kind of like a fresh start. We'll look at the park, we'll figure out what we want to do there. And then new play equipment and possibly a pavilion at Reynolds Park has been high on the list as well. So we put out a scope of work. We had 3 bids come back on it to do essentially a full master plan for Val Jones and more of a updated site plan or a site plan or a site design for Reynolds Park. What kind of play equipment do we want there? Do we want a pavilion? What do we want it to look like? That kind of thing. So we got bids from Living Lab, McKenna, and Nowak and Frost Engineers. All were great proposals. All are great companies that would do a really nice job. Living Lab was the low bid. I have worked with them in the past on projects around the county. They are great at public engagement. They are great at getting to the root of problems and helping communities work through them. So I think that they'll do a really nice job. We do have about 29,000 total in our budget, so that leaves us some wiggle room to potentially do a better, more robust survey tool, or do mailers to households, or other things to make sure that the community is really involved in this process. So that's the recommendation, to go with Living Lab for $25,000.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any public comment? Seeing none, any comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor? So as part of this proposal, public feedback is going to be critical.
Yes.
So explain to me where and how and when that's going to take place as part of this proposal.
Yeah, so my goal would be to try to kick off with Living Lab internally early May and get a game plan in place for what the timelines and the milestones and what those specific things will look like, figuring out what survey tool, what we want that to look like, when that will go out, figure out what meetings to hit. We'll definitely have on-site meetings at the park, and possibly it'll obviously be on our agendas for Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meetings. So there will be multiple opportunities. We'll be driving everyone crazy probably with social media posts and really just trying to get the information out there. But a combination of surveys, social media comments, people can email in comments, and then public meetings, so people can actually come and talk to us in person, look at maps, look at different, concepts for the park, and see what people are interested in.
Great. One thing that didn't happen that was frustrating, I think, for me and my colleagues was when we had a prior firm come out to do like a parks inventory and a parks assessment, we literally begged to have them meet with us first so we could set expectations for sort of what we wanted.
Sure.
It never happened.
Okay.
Then we got the finished product and it was garbage. Am I wrong? It was total garbage. So I'm wondering if there's a way that we could have a kickoff, whether it's in an informal study session or something, just to meet with these folks, sort of give them what our expectations are, and then turn them over to do their thing, meet with the public, come up with the renderings, get all the necessary feedback, run it through the Parks Commission, and then bring it back.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's very doable.
Yeah, I think that was missing in the last one, and then we didn't get the product that we really expected. They didn't have like the guardrails of what we were
Sure.
wanting. So just my suggestion, if we could do that, it'd be helpful. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have also a question, and to add to what, for context, what Joe, or Commissioner Rozelle was talking about is the report that we got was a deferred maintenance list.
Okay, I have seen that.
Which
Yep.
was not helpful.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, yeah,
We know, yeah.
Right.
Thank you for nothing, right? So, I appreciate the plan, this seems like we're moving forward. It seemed like we were kind of stuck before, and so thank you. And to the city manager and the whole team, and finding the budget and, the history of all of the, things that have happened. And it's really refreshing to see that there is, this is the first step in that implementation. So my question is, with the millage, how do you envision the implementation, bigger picture? And I won't hold you to it because I know a lot can change, but what's that timeline?
Yeah, so we will probably be kind of mid-master plan process by the time the vote rolls around in August, but I hope to have at least had a public meeting and at least have a survey out and get people talking about it and discussing things, but by that point, we won't have a detailed list of exactly what we're gonna fund, because what I wanna do is have a plan put together for Val Jones, a new site plan to put together for Reynolds, and then we're getting bids on a number of different things to try to figure out the balance, right? We know that the tennis courts need to be resurfaced. We know that the pool needs to be resurfaced. The locker rooms need to be updated. So we have projects that are greater than $2 million. So this will help us kind of narrow down what we want so that we can figure out how much it costs, so that we can then balance it with everything else and come to you with a recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
I just want to reiterate some of the comments that my colleagues made. I'm really glad that we've found a vendor who, based on their application, has been involved in the design of parks that many of us in Huntington Woods have benefited from in surrounding communities and really love and enjoy. And so it seems like we have a really great person or great company to work with. I'm really glad that we have the funds to do this and to really dedicate to these parks. Obviously, if the millage doesn't pass, then we're very limited in terms of what we can do. So I think that's something really important for the community to understand, that nothing can change without the money to fund it. And then a question just around sort of the reimagining potentially of the Val Jones space. If, would the work of this planning process include the possibility of completely relocating, the inline rink to other parks within the city? I mean, is that possibly part of what this process could determine? That, maybe there is somewhere along 11 Mile, for instance, that might be a better suited to it, and then is that something that would be part of this? So, whereas I know it's focused on Val Jones, would it include generally like the future of a rink wherever it might be in the
I think that it will, because I don't think we can have one conversation without the other. So I think, yes, to your point, I think we'll explore all the opportunities that are available.
Okay, thank you.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is a matter of considering adoption of a resolution submitting the road and sewer rehabilitation and park improvement bond proposal and authorizing the placement of the bond millage on the August 4th, 2026 general election ballot.
So moved.
Second.
I'm gonna turn it over to Amy just to explain a little bit about that.
Okay, and we also do have Jeff from Miller Canfield here too to provide some context as well. But we spoke about this at the last commission meeting, and I think we, after we kind of went through that exercise, we were able to get updated taxable values for 2026, which made the millage rates both for, the first year millage rate, the average millage rate, they were all reduced. So that actually is, a benefit to the residents as far as what they will be paying, for this millage if it goes through. So Jeff, I don't know if you have anything you want to kick off with.
Some brief comments.
Sure.
You've all seen this now for a few meetings, so this isn't a surprise, but this is really the first and most important formal step that the commission takes with respect to placing this question on the ballot. And then as Amy said in her comments, it's placed on the August 4th ballot. It'll be certified to the clerk in May, and then you've got your campaign and lead up. And then if it passes, we'll be back here to talk more about the details of actually authorizing bonds and getting those to market. So, of course, happy to take any questions that you may have about the resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I just have one. The way the market's behaving, right now, do you see like an issuance later this year, rates possibly going down, or do you see them possibly going up slightly?
You can probably guess what I'm going to say, which is we have no idea. Now, the plan really isn't to issue bonds till more like 2027, even
Okay.
though they will be authorized. Your authorization will be locked in August if the ballot measure is approved. But of course, you can really issue any time. That resolution and that authorization doesn't expire. And in fact, the plan is to, if you have $17 million worth of authorization, the plan is to do that in 2 tranches over multiple periods. So even between now and the end of the year, it's very hard to tell. If Brody Killian, your financial advisor, was here, he would probably be even more circumspect than me. But even recently, rates have moved a lot up and down, and obviously so much of this depends on world events, what's happening in Iran and so forth. That does have a pretty immediate impact on interest rates. Where those will go, really hard to tell.
Okay.
And the numbers, as Amy indicated, the numbers that are in the resolution and in the sample ballot language are based not only on taxable values, but on PFM's projections about interest rates, right? That's the other piece here, because that projected millage rate is what is expected or projected or estimated to be required to pay debt service based not only on taxable values, but on what, you know, the projections are for the cost of the bonds. But as I said, that's really just a projection. And over 20 years or so, you know, the rates tend, even though you'll be issuing at a fixed rate, when you do go to issue bonds, it's not just about what those rates are like that day. The market will kind of project what 20 years worth of interest rates will look like, and it can all be sort of put together in one bid for your financing. It's a long way of saying I have no idea.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right,
And Mr. Mayor, if I could, just to remind, this should be a roll call vote.
Okay.
I might have been doing that anyway.
thanks.
We're paying you by the
Just-
hour, that's all. I wanted to give you a
Actually,
chance to
bond counsel
explain
gets paid,
that. I'm
flat
teasing.
Stay here all night.
I'm just kidding.
All right, thank you. Just for the record, I am going to read the actual language that will appear on the ballot that we're approving. It will read, "Shall the city of Huntington Woods, Michigan borrow the principal sum of not to exceed $17 million and issue its unlimited tax general obligation bonds in one or more series, payable in not to exceed 20 years from the date of issue, to pay the cost of acquiring and constructing road and sewer improvements, including storm and sanitary sewer rehabilitation and replacement of existing sewer lines, together with water main improvements and parks and recreation system equipment and improvements." Any public comment? Comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I think the important thing is that as our debt is expiring that we had on prior road and sewer improvements, we're just bringing on more to keep what the road improvements and the sewer improvements going. And so ultimately, you know, it's a negligible increase because, you know, debt is falling off as new debt is coming on. So I think timing-wise, this works out really well for the residents and that we're able to keep these road and sewer improvements and park improvements going, but with a minimal increase to property taxes. So timing-wise, I think this worked out well.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion
It was
carries.
supposed to be a roll call.
Oh, roll call, I'm sorry about that. Start with Mayor Pro Tem Steinhardt.
Aye.
Commissioner Rozell?
Aye.
Commissioner Elder?
Aye.
Commissioner Olsman?
Aye.
Mayor Paul, aye. With that, the motion carries. Item number 4 is a matter of considering setting a public hearing for May 19th, 2026 to receive public comment on the 2026-2027 city operating budget and the property tax millage rate proposed to be levied to support the proposed operating budget. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any public comment? Comments or questions from the commission? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5 is a matter of considering approval of the 2026 Parks Reservation and Use Policy update. And actually, before we have a motion on the floor to approve that, I think a discussion of it probably is better than approving at this point in time, so. Do you want to start us out, Melissa?
Do you want me to just give an overview?
Yeah,
of the-
Or Matthew, might be
Yeah,
better for
one
you
of
to.
us.
Or both? Good evening, Mayor and Commission. So, of course, as you know, last year, we spent a lot of time on the facility room rentals, and we tabled for a while the idea of picking up the parks policy, there was a desire to make a few tweaks to it as we were looking at that, but understood that parks are unique and that they should be part of their own policy. That being said, a core focus of this revision is really fairly nondescript in that the focus was to align many of the boilerplate sections with what the commission approved for the room rentals. So the content neutral purpose, the uniform policy, the idea of what would be in the applications, the insurance and hold harmless requirements, those are all designed to simply continue that uniformity with the facility room rental policy. I think another important update was one of the questions that kept coming up is when exactly is a permit required for a park? And it's not for any use of a park. A park is a traditional public forum. People can show up and use it however, whenever they want. The idea of when a permit should come into play, and it was not clear previously, is really when a person is looking to ensure the availability of, say, a picnic bench or two, or an area of the park at a particular time. Nothing's to stop them from coming whenever they want, but if they want to ensure the availability of that park, or they want to bring in some sort of special equipment, be it sound equipment, entertainment, whatever, then there's a requirement for a permit, so the city knows what they're doing. There's a deposit that's involved, and, the city would come in, make sure the park is left in the condition that it was left in. So those are the situations where a park permit would come into play, certainly not required otherwise. And also a number of other cleanup items, for example, acknowledging that the city does not rent out Burton Park or Burton Field, that playground equipment is not available for rental or reservation, that anybody who's renting a park or a section of it doesn't have free reign over the whole park. It's still a public park, but there's just discussion over how to interact, the people with the permit versus the public. The people who have the permit still have to allow the public to participate in the park outside of the permitted area. And the application would require the applicant to identify what area they want to reserve. And so I think as we bring it to you now, I tried to take a less is more approach by not changing a bunch of the things that were approved in, I think it was the 2023 revision to the policy. There's all the rules still apply equally to anybody, whether they're using a park under a permit or not, in terms of the basic rules about what you can do in a park, and we still have our ordinance controlling that as well. But, so I think at this point, we're turning it over to the commission for comment, maybe identifying anything that perhaps we missed in terms of questions about what can or cannot be reserved, or any of the other logistics.
Okay, thank you. One of the big things that's missing in the policy is, and it's sort of addressed, that no one can rent a park any more than once a month, but we do have some groups that use our athletic field more than once a month, and we haven't addressed how we go about that and what kind of fee we charge for that. And I don't know if I think it has to be addressed in the policy. I just don't know how we're gonna do that. So are we ready to put that into the policy, or do we still have some work to do?
As far as rental of park space for field use, I think internally we were talking about maybe initiating that next year, since we're halfway through a season and we don't want to start that mid-season, and we'd like to talk to folks about how often they're using the park, what their needs are, what's an appropriate fee. We haven't done that work yet, but we plan to.
We'll add, Mr. Mayor, we'll like Melissa just said, we'll add the fees involved in that because of that maintenance of those sports fields for next year. But this year we will, in fact, I'll talk to her tomorrow in regards to editing that policy to show that which allows sporting events more than the one day. Because you're right, they're there a few days a week or every week. So we will have to at least have that caveat in there for the sporting events, the soccer.
Yep.
So yes, we will do that.
I don't know commission feels. Do we want a motion to adopt the policy as is for now?
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Has this gone to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board yet?
No, it has not.
So I'm really concerned about approving the policy that our advisory board has not yet had a chance to review, especially as we're gonna need to update it again anyway to include some changes related to fees and timelines for the sports fields. I think there's a lot of things in here that maybe the advisory board or others might have some comments or revisions on. I mean, I have a lot of questions about a lot of components of the policy, like we talk about alcohol and smoking, there's no reference to vaping, so you're allowed to vape in a park. There's the ability for, you're allowed to have amplified sound as long as it doesn't violate our sound ordinance. Do we really want amplified sounds? It allows for open flames with approval. I don't want open flames in any of our parks. I think that there's a lot of things in here that our advisory board is appointed to represent the residents. It's a chance for residents to give comment, and so I think that it would be really great for it to go back to the advisory board before we vote on it as a commission.
Mr. Mayor? I would agree with Commissioner Steinhardt. I mean, I would be in favor of tabling this to our next meeting or the following meeting to give the Parks and Rec Advisory Board an opportunity to review it, and then to include some of your comments, Mr. Mayor, about the use for sporting leagues and whatnot, and how that would be worked in. So, I mean, I think it's getting there, but I think that it still needs some feedback and some tweaking. So I'm not in favor of moving it tonight. I think that probably tabling it, I mean, the safest thing would be maybe to June's meeting to make sure we can get it through the Parks Advisory Board in May. So, I mean, if Commissioner Steinhardt's making that motion to table it till June, I would certainly support that.
Commissioner Roselle's making a motion for you.
I motion that we table the Parks Reservation Policy till our June meeting.
And I'll support that, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Okay, any public comment? We have a motion on the floor to table. Does that mean I just stop?
Yeah, there is no discussion on the tabling motion.
All right. Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6 is considering approval of the 5-year contract renewal with Axon for body cameras to include the addition of translation feature in the amount of $199,803.78.
So moved.
Seconded.
Mr. City Manager, do you want to just give us a brief
Sure.
update on this?
Obviously, we've been with Axon for the last 5 years. That's split out obviously over 5 years, so it's roughly around 40,000 a year. Actually, we've had some things on Axon that we didn't actually need that they gave us, that so we were able to tweak the contract to allow for this, to keep it at the same price. I think if we looked at 5 years ago, we were pretty close to the 40,000 a year. But to have the translation device, I sent you, the commission and the mayor, the video of how well it works. But it will actually, any language that's spoken to the officer will repeat that language to the officer in English. And then when the officer speaks to the involved person, they will speak into the camera also, and then that will repeat that in that language. It's been very effective. A lot of departments now are purchasing these. And as I said, it's really cost neutral for us for these next 5 years. So it's excellent for the officers. Actually has an AI function on it. It can also put policies in there. It's pretty high tech. It's a really nice device. And all the service on it, maintenance, it's all included in this pricing. So I highly recommend it.
Any public comment?
Hi again, Ellie Mosco, 876 Huntington Road. I'm really excited about this. I really appreciate you guys taking this step. I do have some questions and concerns that go along with it, but I think that this is really important to make sure that individuals who are encountering our law enforcement are able to communicate with them and vice versa. I would ask a couple questions regarding how the training will go with working with these devices. What happens if it's not working or not working with a certain language? Will there be a backup option in order to communicate with people? Because as we know, this is incredibly important. And also just, will it be used automatically if somebody appears to have limited English proficiency? Working with people with limited English proficiencies, oftentimes people say, yes, I understand, but they don't. Or yes, I speak English, but they don't speak that great of English. And so to ensure that people are actually understanding such important matters when it comes to, various encounters that would be taking place, that people are fully understanding and that the officers are fully understanding what is being conveyed back. So I would encourage usage more often than not in a situation like that. And then I also just wanted to, tie that in, and hope that in having to use this type of software, working with people with limited English proficiency, that it doesn't create a heightened level of scrutiny for those who have limited English proficiencies when encountered by law enforcement. So, thank you.
Lori Lisi, 13110 Hart. I'm just going to say what she said. Thank you. I really think this is going to be beneficial to the people who pass through our city and to the officers who work in our city. So thank you very much.
Any comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to commend our city manager for identifying this opportunity. So, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7 is a matter of considering approval with the Michigan Department of Transportation resolution designating Amy Zerwoski as a single street administrator for the city of Huntington Woods.
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? Comments or questions from the commission? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8 is considering approval of the resolution authorizing a request for reimbursement for money spent to combat the West Nile virus for 2026. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? This is something that we've done annually, and that the county has reimbursed us for. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9 is a matter of considering adoption of an ordinance to amend the city code, Chapter 8, Utilities Business, Article 10, Landlords. And this is regarding procedures, duration, and license fees to provide that landlord licenses and certificate of occupancy shall not be issued for rentals of less than 30 days. This is a first reading of this. Do we have a motion?
Before you do,
We
Mr.
want
Mayor,
discussion first.
I just want to point out that I think there was just a slight typo on the way it's on the agenda by referencing utilities. It should just be Chapter 8 businesses and then on, but in the packet, the draft is titled correctly.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion for purposes of discussion if you want that.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second it for purposes of discussion.
Okay. I know that the planning commission is intending in the near future to take this item up and do a more in-depth and detailed ordinance in regards to rentals. But what we're basically doing right now is adding a limit that we can't have a short-term rental for less than 30 days is basically the change we're making to the ordinance.
Correct. So as the landlord licensing statute reads right now, there isn't any clarity as to exactly what the term of a rental can be. over the past few years in particular, we've seen an evolution in the case law that is distinguishing between a short-term rental as being a rental less than 30 days, and then any rental 30 days or beyond would be required to go into the long-term rental category. Short-term rentals have been defined now as a commercial use in state and federal case law. And also when it comes to zoning ordinances, where a zoning ordinance does not specifically permit a short-term rental, it is considered to be prohibited. Unless, and then anybody who's got a short-term rental that, hasn't been permitted because they weren't permitted, it's not entitled in any sort of non-conforming use, vested rights, because it's operating out of alignment with the zoning ordinance. And because the courts are recognizing short-term rentals as a commercial activity, arguments that they fall within the definition of a single-family home or within the residential intent of a residential district have been being rejected by the courts. So really, at this point, it is stronger certainly to provide in the zoning ordinance exactly how you want to deal with short-term rentals, and that's where the Planning Commission will go with this. But in the meantime, this suggested revision to the licensing ordinance reflects essentially where the case law is at now, that short-term rentals are not expressly permitted in the city of Huntington Woods, and you can't use the landlord licensing, you would not be able to use the landlord licensing provisions as sort of an end run around the zoning.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Okay.
So I've read in the paper about issues in communities with homes being rented for one night, and then they turn into these crazy party houses and become very disruptive, including one in Birmingham recently that I read about where there were gunshots and police had to be involved and whatnot. And these were like a bunch of young folks renting a house off of like Airbnb for a night, throwing a party there, and it kind of getting out of control. So something like this, by making it a 30-day thing, eliminates these one single night, one single weekend rental opportunities.
Exactly, right. And as far as I understand, any house that may be doing this in the city hasn't come for a permit, so this would be clarifying that that's not an option, and again, aligns it with the zoning. So no, this would not permit somebody to use the landlord licensing ordinance to come in for a 1 to 29-day rental.
Now, we sort of set this at 30 days. Is that, because I'm wondering, like, what if I was having relatives come in from out of town and they could rent a house in Huntington Woods for a week? Like, is a week okay? Or is 2 weeks okay? Or is like 30 days where we need to be?
Well, that's
Like,
all.
if we're trying to avoid the one night, one weekend gunshots at a crazy house party, couldn't we solve that with 1 week or 2 weeks?
Well, that's something that we can certainly dig into as we continue to look at that with the Planning Commission, but a week would be considered a short-term rental. So at this point, 30 days has just kind of been emerging as the cutoff between, your short-term rentals are generally being defined as any amount of days less than 30. So
Okay.
that could be 1, it could be 7, it could be 16, and that would be a short-term rental.
Okay.
Of course, it all depends how you define it. If we defined it a certain way in the zoning ordinance, then however it's defined in the zoning ordinance would control. But this approach that we're taking, just to try to put any applications or confusion about short-term rentals status in the city on pause while we're looking at the zoning ordinance piece, that's where the 30 days is coming from.
And then we have normally we do a first reading and then we do a second reading, but we have the ability to just adopt it without doing a second reading if we feel something is eminent and necessary. So
For emergency
For
effect.
emergency effect and that type of thing. Is this something you feel we need to do, or is this something that you feel that having it
frankly don't
go down the normal course
I
is
think in the
fine?
normal course would be fine.
Okay.
I mean, I guess there always is theoretically the possibility that someone could try to slip in, but the flip side of that is that the zoning ordinance doesn't permit it. So it's licensing and zoning together. This is to align with the zoning.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. So there's a couple of well-known websites that list short-term rentals like Airbnb or VRBO. How does our municipality or municipalities work with those or communicate with those types of companies to let them know you cannot list rentals in our city because it is against our ordinance?
Yeah, I don't even know that it's so much necessarily directly interacting with those rental companies. And that is the problem. Sometimes it does come up sort of on a case-by-case basis when something happens at one of these places. That's usually what puts it on the radar and makes it salient to a community. But, there are ways to scour those websites to figure out what's being offered in a particular community and such, short of having some sort of catastrophe. But, yeah, I mean, the advertising sites themselves would not necessarily be the ones on the hook for complying with the ordinance.
What is the penalty to the landlord for not complying?
Under our current ordinance, it's a civil infraction, but also the house could be posted as not to be occupied if there is no valid landlord license.
So civil infractions, $500 fine,
It usually starts with 100,
works his way up.
yeah.
All right.
What's the time frame for a planning commission to work through?
Within the next couple months.
Okay.
This isn't probably important because of the incidents we had on 11 Mile. So we had 2 open house parties there. So with the first time we issued a ticket, which is a civil infraction. Second time, it automatically becomes a misdemeanor because it was a second offense. So the owner of the home was issued those violations for 2 open house parties. First one he paid for, second one he has to go to court. So that's still pending. That's what triggered this for us, and when I saw what happened in Birmingham is why I expedited it when I called him. Now granted, in regards to enforcement, it is easy to enforce, and the reason why is once we respond there, they rent the house for one night, they charge these young kids $20 to come to the party, and they come from all over, they park all over. Well, obviously the residents are gonna call, complain, we'll see all the cars, we do a thorough investigation for public safety, find out exactly why they're there, who was there, and how they rented it, and that's how we find out what's going on. If that didn't occur, I feel pretty confident the residents are gonna call when they see several different cars coming from week to week, day to day, to alert us that it looks like this is a rental home. So that's how we kinda catch them in regards to that. Sure, they can skirt the law and try to get away with it by saying, well, they have a 30-day rental, but they're gonna rent it anyway, how are we gonna know about it? Well, we'll know about it, because as soon as that occurs, that's when we'll know about it, and then they'll be violated, and then they'll be charged. But that's why that's what started this. So I would like him to do this now until this can get to the planning commission and make it official, whatever they decide on. So it doesn't
So
continue.
this is a short-term solution that you're
Yeah,
looking at.
that's right.
And the planning commission is going to make a
Long-term.
more permanent
Right. That's right.
law.
Mm-hmm.
And that time frame you think is 60 days?
That's probably about right. Keep in mind, right now, as a default under the zoning, short-term rentals are not permitted. So, anything the planning commission is going to do is either just expressly prohibit them, or do something else, depending on how that discussion
And
evolves.
case law aligns with.
Yeah, absolutely,
currently.
absolutely.
So, Mr. Mayor, in light of, the city manager sharing what's happening on 11 Mile, why don't we just enact this tonight then? Just have it go into immediate effect. Then planning commission can do its thing and it can come back.
I guess my only, you could, but again, I think because of the zoning status, that's ultimately mostly what you need, in order to deny a license. This is really just a text clarification to align the landlord licensing piece with the zoning.
So I'm confused as to what staff is asking the commission.
Well,
for
I'm
tonight.
confused what you just said. Are we saying that
Well, just-
you recommend that we will go ahead and go forward and vote it in?
With respect to the emergency, I don't think it's an emergency
Right.
necessarily,
Yeah.
but, that would
We'll just keep writing
prevent a
tickets.
second.
We'll just keep writing tickets and haul them into Oak Park's district court.
Yeah, well, and that's,
Well, that's what happened with that.
that's
too.
what's gonna happen
All right.
anyways.
Either way.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, any public comment?
Kathleen Erickson, 13342 Hart Avenue. I don't have a lot of voice, but I'm a big short-term renter when I travel. Has there been any other issues in our city except, in addition to the 11 mile?
Oh, no other,
Outside the city, I think, but not within the city.
no, we're not aware how many rentals there are in the city, but no.
But no
No other
issues?
incidents.
Okay.
It's the same
And
house. You're right.
when I called the city about it, I was told that, yes, I could do short-term rental. Are you saying that that's not true?
Under the zoning ordinance, they are not expressly permitted.
What does that mean? That I
They are not
couldn't?
permitted.
I'm not, okay. I called the city about it. I've never used it, but I did call the city about it, and I was told that it was allowed. So, but you're saying it's not?
No.
Currently, short-term rentals
Correct.
are not allowed in our city.
My understanding is that there are one or two in the city that are operating as short-term rentals right now, which is why we're trying to get ahead of the
Right.
problem. See, you say,
Okay.
you say, well, have there been any other?
Yeah, any
My
other
view,
issues?
my view is, we don't need to wait for something really bad to happen. We want to try to get ahead of the problem, and looking at it from the perspective of, Huntington Woods isn't Saugatuck, it's not a lakefront community. I'm well aware of all these disputes on the west side of the state. I have a house in South Haven, so I hear this stuff all the time. It's different. You've got the lake, it's recreational and everything. Huntington Woods isn't in that situation. And the way I see it is, our residents, when they buy, we talk about when someone buys a house somewhere, what do they expect? Well, I think they expect to be on a residential street, not next to a hotel or something functioning like a hotel. And, all we're trying to do is get ahead of a problem that we foresee being out there. So and the other part about this ordinance is if we adopt it tonight, and I'm all set to vote for it, we can always change it when the planning commission, I'm the liaison to that, we've been talking about this for some time now. And, Hank Berry brought it up months ago, and it's just one of those things you want to be careful with and move slowly on and get it right. But the intention is to, get ahead of a problem and not wait for something, a la Birmingham or something like that, to have a situation like that. Can you imagine how many people we'd have at the meeting after that? Right, so.
But 30-day rentals are still allowed.
If we agree to, if we passes, you can, if you're gonna rent, it's gotta be for 30 days.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to devil's advocate and brief the thought, we're not Saugatuck, we're not a lakefront community, we don't have bars like in Birmingham. People are coming to this community, more likely, they're coming to visit family. So I don't know that necessarily this would turn into like a party hotel town. It could be people coming to spend a week with their family in the summer and looking for a place to stay that's nearby. So I just want to throw that out there. Thanks.
Okay, there is that. Still the question out there about, is this an emergency or are we gonna adopt immediately? Is that something the commission wants to explore?
Well, as I said, with the planning commission, I don't know how long it's gonna take us, and I feel better having something on the books now that can be, there's nothing that, it's not carved in granite once we, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, nothing.
No pun intended.
I didn't mean to know, right, but the point is, I think it's a prudent thing right now, so.
Mr. Mayor, I'll amend my motion that the ordinance take immediate effect without a second reading.
Is that acceptable to you?
I
Was it-
think I.
No, who was that? You were second.
I guess, before we get, I'm just confused as to what the staff recommendation is, because I'm hearing is needed. And then on this side, I'm hearing the law is already in place, and this is a Band-Aid to cover us for 60 days.
Yeah, no,
Because of the licensing versus the zoning, it's already prohibited. So why do we need to expressly?
Right, I was
Prohibited.
just
Again.
underscoring that, you know, well, because you do want your licensing ordinance to align with the zoning, no doubt.
How does this impact the homeowner, is my question, if we don't do anything?
Which one? The one that wants to rent their property out?
Yeah, Airbnb, right now. If we commission do nothing tonight and let the planning commission do their job.
Well, ultimately, right now, I'm just speaking as to this question of whether you need to adopt it today or whether it go through the second reading. I do think that you need to adopt the ordinance to align the licensing provision with the zoning ordinance. That makes sense. And in communities that have zoning and licensing, that's
makes the
usually
law
how it
more clear.
works. So absolutely.
Okay.
So, I mean, to the extent you're looking at an immediate effect, I don't have a problem with it by any means. It makes sense to get that aligned, so there's no confusion that how the licensing ordinance is operating. But, you know, in terms of whether the sky is going to fall, I don't think it would if you waited for a second reading. But either way, at the end of the day, the goal is to get the ordinance adopted.
Okay,
And-
Mr. Mayor.
and I'm
think
supportive either way.
clearer now, and
Okay.
I'm fine with Commissioner Rozelle's amended motion. I will second that on the basis that this just clarifies the law.
Right.
It does not change
Right.
the law.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Just another point of clarification, Mr. Mayor, sorry. The specific house that has been an issue that is sort of driving some of this change, that want to clarify, my understanding from talking to Hank is that the homeowner does not have a landlord license currently. And so were they to come to the city, if we did not adopt this today, if they were to come to the city and apply for a landlord license, they would not necessarily qualify because of their open issues with the court or the city.
In regards to approving it?
Like if they came tomorrow, if we don't adopt this,
Or even if we do
Change.
adopt it?
or even if we do adopt it, were they to come to the city tomorrow and say, whoops, we were renting out our house, didn't realize we needed a landlord license, we want to do that now, that they would not qualify for a landlord license because of their misdemeanor
Well,
ticket issue.
I mean, I don't think that's gonna preclude them from doing that. I mean, if it's a violation, and they take care of the violations, they go to court. I mean, as long as he starts to comply going forward, that's what we want compliance. And then if we make it 30 days, then he'll know if he's landlord, he can't rent for a weekend or one night. That's what we're trying to stop, because that's what they do. They rent them, this is not unusual. When they rent, granted, people do rent for like a whole week, that's different. Like I said, you could alter it to say, maybe they will, maybe the planning commission will say, we'll allow rentals. Well, that'll stop a 22-year-old kid from renting it for a whole week. They just want it for the one night for $200 or something, so, because then they're gonna charge everybody $20 to go there. So typically on those rentals, they have it's indicated where you can't have these open house parties. They put it in their agreement. This gentleman's fine with it, because he's making this money on the house. So, but in regards to him getting that license, you know, unless this continues, then I could see denying him, that would be the purpose.
Okay.
But this way, we would know too, you can't rent it, he has to rent for 30 days. And with the residents that live around him that are complaining, believe me, we'll know if he's renting one-day rentals. I'm not concerned about that. Or we'll be there, be responding again, issuing more tickets. Right now, he has to go in front of the judge because it's happened twice.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to take effect immediately. Item number 10 is a discussion regarding city interactions with federal agencies. Turn it over to our city attorney to start us off.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, at the last meeting, the commission asked me to just kind of look at what some of the other communities have been doing in terms of the issues of local government interaction with federal agents and officers, and whether there are options, particularly, for purposes of today. I was looking at the Ann Arbor and Washtenaw County model, where they passed resolutions, and Ann Arbor's trying to move toward an ordinance that limits everything from the local government sharing information with federal agents, to controlling what they're wearing, to having their local attorneys review warrants, et cetera. Yeah, I think what I have to say on this is actually really short and fairly blunt. A local unit of government does not have authority to control the exercise of a federal agency's jurisdiction. It's plain and simple. It's the supremacy clause, it's the variety of federal statutes and codes that are involved. I mean, you have direct statutes that say that a local government shall not enact any sort of policy, laws, et cetera, that prohibit the sharing of information with federal agencies, et cetera. Now, that's not to say that these same federal laws force the city to do anything beyond what they do. So, there's a line between being passive and not actively helping versus just doing what the law requires. And a lot of that is on information sharing. So in the event that the federal government comes in asking for information about an individual, the law says you got to cooperate. When it comes to administering a warrant, executing a warrant, if a federal agent is coming in to execute a warrant, whether it be judicial or administrative, to have, for example, your local city attorney review it, I don't have any jurisdiction over the federal government, plain and simple. I'm not a judge. I don't get to review the validity of a particular warrant. And to the extent that, there's been some discussion of distinguishing between a criminal versus an administrative warrant, well, they are two different types of instruments. So administrative warrants are issued for particular purposes. For example, under the act controlling the Immigration Nationality Act, if there's a probable cause that a person is illegally present as an alien, they can get an administrative warrant, whereas the judicial warrant is more focused on crimes. So, the city has no obligation, of course, to join the federal agents in investigating. Nobody's doing that. There's the 287 agreement that the council passed the resolution saying, do not enter one of those. That would be the main gateway to actively engaging the federal government and working with them. But at the end of the day, no, the local public safety is a local public safety, but it still has obligations to comply with state and federal law. To the extent that communities are enacting or attempting to enact resolutions or ordinances that say, no, federal government, you cannot do this, or you cannot enter a public space, I think the biggest proof that it's going to be a problem for the federal government is in Washtenaw County. Just earlier this month, the federal government did sue Washtenaw County, making all the arguments that we would anticipate them to make, particularly that the resolution that Washtenaw passed is preempted by federal laws, including laws that the resolution specifically states the resolution does not intend to violate. If you're writing in a resolution that you believe you're not violating a law, it's probably the first sign that you may think there is a problem. And then invoking the supremacy clause. So, I cannot in good conscience recommend moving forward with any sort of resolution or ordinances like what Ann Arbor or Washtenaw is doing. I think you would be walking into a lawsuit, an expensive one, that based on my experience with insurance, would not be covered by your carrier, and only, opens the door to all the various concerns that we've seen about how the federal government is responding to those sorts of efforts by local governments, including funding issues.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, so that's, the Ann Arbor, Washtenaw. Are there any actions taken outside of the two you mentioned in cities or townships where you feel that maybe they are more in alignment? That maybe aren't as, as you say, like out of compliance or contrary to federal law? Has anybody done anything that is like you view as permissible and okay?
My sense is they're kind of chasing the same model. I did do some, looking just kind of through the news to see what other people are doing. Keep in mind, this is a very new type of thing, so it's not like we've got oodles of case law on it, and we're just starting to see what's happening to the communities who are trying it. But no, I can't say that I've seen any model that would assuage my concerns about preemption and the supremacy clause.
The policy that we passed at the last meeting about not affirmatively entering into an agreement, do you see that as somehow problematic in terms of the Washtenaw litigation?
That I do not, because a 287 agreement is inherently voluntary. So all the commission's action last month was simply a very clear policy resolution stating the city will not enter into one of those agreements. And as long as that resolution it holds, it's simply stating the commission's preference on that, which is by no means outside of this commission's discretion to decline to enter one of those agreements.
Okay. Any public comment?
Lori Lisi again. Well, what I was gonna say is now gotta be addressed partly to what I heard here today. First, I wanted to thank you guys for adopting that resolution. I had a quick procedural question. Is that resolution final, or did it have to be written up and you guys had to vote on it again? I mean, often when there's a resolution, you guys are reading from a piece of paper, so I just didn't know if it was all done and dusted. Thank you for looking into what you thought we could do and what we couldn't do. I don't think necessarily all the things that I would like to see the city do are what Washtenaw County has done. The other thing I would say is that I actually talked with Ellie Sabat, the county prosecuting attorney of Washtenaw County this weekend, and he's under the belief that it's going to be a walk in the park to beat the federal government. So I think this is an area in which it's new and that people could disagree. So just throwing it out there, he thinks it's going to be no problem. And as a group of residents, we have been working on the areas that we would like to see the city make policy. And I would still like to run that by the city attorney and send that to the commissioners, send it to the city manager, and then have the ability to maybe discuss that further, because I don't think it exactly mirrors what Washtenaw County did. But I did want to talk about where I was hoping we really could have policy. I want to flag a recent Detroit Free Press article. I don't know how many people read it. It highlights a common police practice and one that I think is the policy and practice of our public safety department, which is during routine traffic stops, when a driver can't produce a valid Michigan driver's license, especially if the person presents foreign documents or is not a native English speaker. Many police departments call U.S. Customs and Border Protection, or CBP, to confirm the identity of the person. And I think in the vast majority of those cases, it leads to the person being held for pickup by Border Protection. I would be curious to hear if that's ever happened in Huntington Woods and the person has not been picked up. This article notes this has been the practice of many departments for years, and I remember Andrew saying this has been our practice, this is nothing new, but it has increased since 2024. Nonetheless, it is not universal. I know of at least 2 cities who are not doing that. The one I'm going to cite is Livonia, has paused the practice while it reviews its policies. And as Huntington Woods reviews its own policies, I would ask you to end the practice of contacting CBP for identity verification and routine traffic stops, and to train your officers to give them clear guidance on how else to handle these situations. And I just was thinking in my own mind of sort of a fairness test. So if a white person, and I'm only using white to say they don't tend to look like they come from another country. So let's not even call them white. They're speaking English very well, like they were born here. And they present to public safety they don't have a license. They present a library card from Texas. Well, we maybe don't know that's really who they are. We would never call Border Patrol on those people because we don't think that they're going to know who they are. So whatever we would do for those people, whether it's taking them and fingerprinting them to see if they've committed a crime, is the way I would like to treat everybody. Extending a stop to wait for and the other thing I would point out is that we've given you guys the MERC and ACLU version of what cities can and cannot do. And again, I think there's disagreement maybe among attorneys what that is, but I would ask you to look at that. Their position is that extending a stop to wait for identity verification can raise civil rights concerns, which also could lead to liability for the city. But finally, I want to say the stakes are really high for anyone we turn over to Border Patrol or ICE. This Free Press article describes a woman who was detained by ICE after a traffic stop for nearly 3 months, and it was based on an identity verification call. And eventually, after 3 months, a federal judge ruled the detention was unlawful. She was never charged with a crime related to her identification documents. So, in closing, I ask that you look at what we're going to bring to you guys and that you be open to still thinking about where we can make changes to policy, to try not to call CBP unnecessarily because it just ends up in those people ending up in detention or gone. And it doesn't mean they've committed a crime. I mean, those people don't have ID often because their status doesn't allow them to have an ID. But being undocumented is not in and of itself a crime. And you have residents here with expertise in areas pertinent to these policies and with a commitment to the city and to being from a city that does its best to protect all people. Thank you for your time.
Do I need to repeat my name again?
No, but will you keep it 2 minutes?
Yes, I am trying. I want to piggyback on what Lori was saying. I want to first say this is not a Supremacy Clause issue. And I want to encourage you to meet with the ACLU and or the Michigan Immigrant Rights Center who have done the research. They have the case law. There is evidence in what they have to say as far as what some of the things that we can and cannot do. Now, we are not necessarily looking to do exactly what Washington County has done in Ann Arbor. We have some proposals based on what we've seen done in this community and what we would like to see done in this community. And I just also want to just really add that immigration enforcement is federal responsibility. It's not our responsibility. They are getting paid lots of money for that. There's been a lot of money funneled into that. We should not be spending our resources on it. The city's decision to not enter into a 287G agreement is important, but avoiding that one contract by itself does not keep the community safe. What matters is not the formality of the contract, but the actions we take and the way we train our personnel to act. Our community needs to know that local law enforcement will protect residents from unlawful immigration enforcement. So if immigration comes to somebody's home without a proper judicial warrant to search their home, they cannot enter their home with an administrative warrant, and our police should be able to protect our community members from that. That's just one example. And that, again, is not a Supremacy Clause issue. Agents can operate outside of the law, and we have a duty to act. Our officers have a duty to act if an officer is engaging outside of the law. Our community needs to know that local law enforcement will protect residents from unlawful immigration enforcement, not serve as a pipeline to immigration authorities. We need policies, training, and accountability that shape day-to-day decisions. When someone is stopped, questioned, detained, transferred, or reported, and how their information is used and shared. I urge you to adopt stronger citywide policies, including clear limits on local involvement in civil immigration enforcement, so public safety is not used as an arm of federal immigration authorities. A ban on detentions, transfers, extended holds, or arrests and searches based only on detainers, administrative warrants, or informal requests from immigration authorities, including requests that come after we contact them and bring them into our community. Strict non-discrimination protections and limits on immigration status questioning, race, ethnicity, language, accent, national origin, or foreign documents should never be used to trigger suspicion or immigration-related action. Protections of sensitive places and personal information, schools, places of worship, libraries, community centers, and polling places, and tight limits on sharing data, photos, and biometrics for immigration enforcement purposes, regular training, public reporting, and meaningful oversight so residents can see what the city practices match city promises, a resident public safety advisory committee to build community, foster trust, and serve as a two-way liaison between public safety and residents on safety and civil rights issues, along with sound governance and transparency so that no single leader is forced to protect a department's interest over the community's interest. Public safety works best when residents feel safe reporting crimes, asking for help, sending their children to school, and participating in civic life without fear that contact with local government will lead to immigration enforcement. Strong policy limits good training and clear accountability, protects civil rights, reduce legal risk for the city, and build the trust that true public safety depends on. Thanks.
Sid Carden, Vernon Street, very short presentation. So what I heard in our presentation was that there's problems in Washtenaw County and there's problems in Ann Arbor. But when the question was raised, was there a problem with what the city council did last month and said, you know, can we not enter into a 287G agreement? The answer was no, there's no problem with it. So if there's no problem with the action that we took last month legally, then it follows logically that there has to be some supporting reasons for what we did that would still not endanger our community legally in any way. So I would urge us to search for the supporting comments that allow us to voluntarily and legally not enter into a 287G agreement. Thank you.
Steve Gold, 26764 York. I want to talk about citizen input beyond what we're doing at nights like this to DPS policies and practices. So early in 2021, I presented the City Commission with the results of a deep dive that I took on behalf of the Huntington Woods Peace Group into 5 years of data on the policies and practices of our Department of Public Safety regarding bias in policing and use of force. The Commission chose not to acknowledge even receipt of that work, much less to consider any of its many recommendations. Apparently, the fact of CALEA certification was seen as unchallengeable proof that there was nothing that the DPS was doing that could be improved, or at least nothing that could be improved at the behest of a residents group. Similarly, the anti-racism plan eventually adopted by the Commission contained little of it, if anything, of substance for changes in the policies and practices of the DPS. One of the many recommendations made in the document that I submitted was the formation of a Community Public Safety Advisory Committee tasked with regularly reviewing traffic stop, use of force, citizen complaint, and other data, and working with the DPS director on any issues of concern. That idea, some version of which is to be found in Detroit, Ferndale, Oak Park, and other local communities, was ignored. Now it raises its head again in the context of an issue which is much in the public eye, but equally much absent from the CALEA certification criteria. Our DPS officers do a wonderful job inside the boundaries of Huntington Woods, and I mean that sincerely. Although I'm clearly critical of CALEA certification as the be-all and end-all of quality assurance in community policing, it is far from a small thing or an easy thing to achieve, and I acknowledge that in my inquiry. but we do need additional avenues for community involvement with the policies and practices of our DPS, and the time has come for a community which boasts of its excellence to acknowledge that fact and to do something about it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Devin Nagel. I live at 8920 Nadine. This is my first time here. I just wanted to express my support and echo what Lori and Ellie said. You know, I understand what you're saying about not being able to deny complying with federal agencies, but I think there's a difference about initiating contact with federal agencies and in a way that seems discriminatory against people who don't speak English as a first language. So I would ask that you please put into effect a policy to end the practice of initiating contact with CBP that's unnecessary. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marie Defer. I live at 13307 Talbot Avenue. I support the previous commenter, also Ellie and Lori's positions. It's unclear to me why the city is only looking at Ann Arbor and Washtenaw County. The November traffic stop shows that public safety called federal authorities because non-English speakers who presumably do not have white skin could not provide valid ID, and then they held those people without proof of warrants, specifically the passenger. Our city needs to decide if this is acceptable. The city cannot give this up based on looking at what Ann Arbor and Washtenaw County has done, and because the Trump administration filed a lawsuit. Anyone who's read the newspaper knows that the Trump administration has filed multiple frivolous lawsuits that get tossed out constantly. Thank you for continuing to look at this. I hope you guys don't give this up because of what Ann Arbor and Washtenaw County did, because the Trump administration filed a lawsuit. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor? Couple things. One, the resolution on the 287G is final. I mean, we act through resolution or motion, and so that is a final binding, it's in effect. We cannot regulate school property in any way, even for building code. I mean, they are totally autonomous, so we have no authority over any school property or school building that, under the revised school code, solely rests with the school district and the Board of Education. So that's a school property is an issue for the school district. In terms of polling places, it's a crime for a federal agent to present at a polling place unless they're there to vote or unless they're called. So I think we're covered in terms of federal law and federal agents being at polling places. That being said, though, I am open to, whatever citizens have and want to bring forward. I mean, I think we're committed to dialogue. I think we're committed to reviewing ideas. I'm never going to tell anybody that I'm not going to listen to you or I don't care what you have to say. That's not my role. So I'm totally open to that. I think that ultimately it's got to be reviewed by city attorney, and then we have to be comfortable with it as fiduciaries of the city and what potential liability rests with those decisions. But I think that we're open to that discussion. We're open to that dialogue. I think we've all kind of committed to that, and we'll see where this where this takes us. So whatever you're working on and whenever you're ready, feel free to submit it, and then we'll deliberate and do what we need to do. The last thing I'll say is that I don't really think in a city of this size we need a police advisory board. The five of us are elected to oversee, and one of the few departments we oversee is public safety through overseeing the public safety director. So I kind of feel like we are the Public Safety Advisory Board because we're elected by the citizens and we directly hire the public safety director along with the city manager. Those are the only two positions in the city that report directly to us. So I think that that's an important thing to say too. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I want to comment on the last speaker's comment about why we're not taking cues from Washtenaw County. We're taking cues from litigation brought against Washtenaw County. And, you know, we're living in very dangerous times. There's no question about that. And how I may feel personally about something is different than what's in the best interest of the city. As Matt pointed out, if Ann Arbor wanted to, and Washtenaw County wanted to, you know, go about doing this, I mean, there's, you know, they have their legal counsel, they have people there to advise them, and if they decided to take a jump in the pool and see how it goes, so be it. But as Matt pointed out, you don't have to stick your head in a beehive to find out you might get stung, and this kind of litigation is very expensive. The complaint that was filed in this case is a 53-page complaint. I suspect it's been filed in other jurisdictions around the United States, but it basically says one thing, which is what Matt said, that you cannot pass ordinances locally that attempt to override federal statutes and federal, you know, orders and things like that. You just can't do it. And to say, well, it's a Pyrrhic victory, you know, we're going to take a run at it. Some of you may remember everything that went on over the library access and the parks access and how we dealt with that. And all I kept saying during that period of time was I didn't want two things. I didn't want to be a defendant in a lawsuit brought by somebody who said their civil rights had been violated by our policy. And number two, and not that I didn't have any interest in seeing a news media truck here trying to interview the city manager about why we were doing this. We're trying to solve a problem and do it in a way that was lawful and didn't cause more problems by our action than by our inaction. And in this case, I'm not in any way interested in what Washtenaw County did or didn't do substantively, but like Matt said, his job's to protect the city. Now, me personally, I love lawsuits. That's how I make my living. I love lawsuits, but not sitting here as a city commissioner, trying to safeguard the public treasury. This is not a good thing for small municipalities to become involved in, is this type of litigation, because obviously the government has unlimited resource, armies of people that they can, seek to make an example of you with, and I personally don't want to do that. I'm satisfied with that what we passed the last time in response to Joe Rozell's comments and the comments of the people that came in here. We're not helping anybody. But as far as what public safety officers do in a given circumstance, I'm not a public safety officer. I'm just leery of passing judgment on something like that where I don't have any qualification to do it. So, but the main thing I'm interested in is not getting sued. That's what I'm interested in. And I'm not interested in being a target of, a justice department that would salivate at the thought of getting a city like Huntington Woods. So I appreciate Matt's efforts. This is what he's been saying all along. But I'm glad we had the discussion. And I certainly, like I said, what I may agree with personally is a lot different than sitting here trying to protect the city itself. So thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna keep it brief. You guys have ideas, bring it. It has to pass legal review. does it work? Is it enforceable? I mean, those are the same questions. Now, there are ideas that you've shared with me that are like outside of the legal area, right? The how can we have better communication or engagement with our public safety, or providing, I don't know, just, it doesn't always have to be an ordinance. So I guess all I'm saying is, I'm open to dialogue, but it's gotta pass legal muster for me.
Mr. Mayor, I would just echo Commissioner Elder's comments, and I feel very much the same way that she does.
Okay. Thanks, Matt, for your time and research on this, and keep us updated.
Absolutely.
Something develops. Okay. City managers report.
First, the Verigy project will be totally completed probably by the end of May. All the solar panels will be active. And then also DTE will be installing all the new LED 2700 lumen streetlights throughout the city. I'm hoping within 3 or 4 months, we'll be able to look at our previous bills and see what kind of savings we're gonna get just from that alone, because all the buildings are gonna be on solar electricity and obviously our streetlights. So it'll be interesting to see how well this project panned out. So that'll be, should be completed by the end of May. The 2700 lumen, by the way, is, the light will be a little whiter than the yellow that you see now, but it's not so bright that it's gonna interfere with residents in their homes. Because they also have a 5,000, so this is half of that, 2,700, almost 3,000. So that'll be a nice change, and obviously those lights can last 6 to 7 years before they have to be replaced. The LED lights last forever. In regards to public safety, starting in May, we're going to have coffee with the cop. I'll be there for a few of the meetings and meet with residents, and hopefully we have a good turnout. And we'll do it probably once a month, depending on the turnout, and people can come in and meet the officers and talk to the officers, and any questions or concerns they may have, please be friendly and nice to them. And we'll do that, and if that goes well, we'll continue to do that. Also, I really take pride in resolving issues in a timely manner, I really do. What I've noticed over the last year, though, is a lot of calls of concern or complaints or calls for service are coming through the commissioners. You really need to call directly to the department that the issue's with, whether if it's DPW, if it's trash, if it's damage to city property, please call the DPW directly. If it's the parks, the pool, any of that, call the park. If it's public safety, call public safety. Because what happens is, I'll get an email, then I'll have to contact the department head, then they'll call staff. That could take 2 or 3 days, depending if it's on a weekend. If you call them directly, it'll be handled within an hour. If for some reason you're not happy with how it's resolved, then you can email me or call me and I'll make sure that it's handled properly. I'm very confident in my staff, they're very competent, and they're there to help you. But it's slowing things down by receiving emails almost daily through the commission instead of directly to the department heads. So I hope more residents start to do that. Oh, that's it. That's what I wanted to say, I guess.
Any questions from the commission for the city manager? I have one Verigy question.
Yes.
We agreed when we went into that contract that we would have them do a cost analysis after a year one time?
Yeah, so the first year, they'll give us after a complete year, they'll give us a cost analysis, what we saved.
So that'll be a year from
Yeah,
now?
but after that, I won't recommend it because they charge $5,000. So I'm gonna save $5,000 by not doing that. I think all we need to do is look at our monthly bills and be able to figure this out on our own with paying that cost. This is part of the project, they're doing that. So after that, I think we can do that on our own and be effective in how much we're actually saving. But yes, they will do that.
So that first review is a year from now?
Yes, it'll be a year after they're active, it'll be a complete year, but I'm going to do it monthly and just get a rough idea and come back with you how much we've actually saved, maybe in 3 or 4 months. We should see a savings immediately, right?
Let's hope.
So that's what we'll do with that.
Commission comments, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, just a few comments, Mr. Mayor. So in regards to Val Jones Park issue, Again, want to remind our residents that nothing can change without the dollars to do it. And so we need the community to vote for the millage and pass that so that we can improve our facilities, which includes Val Jones Park. I also want to remind folks that the master plan doesn't say that we will, does not commit us to renovating the current facilities as they are, but also does not commit us to demolishing them either. And I'm really excited that we have the money and a vendor and a fantastic director of Parks and Rec to really lead a community process for figuring out the best use of that space moving forward, whether it stays as a hockey rink and skate bowl, or whether it becomes something else. I think it should be the decision of the community, and not necessarily the decision of myself. I'm not the expert on it, and so I really love the fact that it will be community-led. I do think it's really important that whatever we decide to do there does take into account the noise issues. Nobody knew what the noise issues were going to be when it was built 25 years ago, and now we know, and I think it's really important that whatever solution is put into place addresses that. I also wanted to speak to the issue that was raised around latchkey. I think I said it at our last meeting. I was thrilled to see the Berkeley School District take on the responsibility of latchkey at Burton. It was the only school that the school district did not provide that service at. I think it was long overdue for the city of Huntington Woods, which was so innovative in 1980 whatever, to put that service in place when it didn't exist with the school district. It was long overdue for them to take it over. It is their issue to provide equal access to all students that are part of the school. It is our responsibility to provide services to residents. It's their responsibility to provide services to all of the students that go to the school. And I think it's really great that they're doing this. And I think that if parents are concerned, they should go attend a school board meeting and express their concerns to the school board.
Good point. I'm going to jump in and tack onto that just a little bit. I think it'll also give the opportunity for our Parks and Rec department to offer more programming, potentially past the 4:15 time that they currently do, and it might solve some issues as well, but it's a great opportunity for the city. I think it's a great thing too. Commissioner Rozell.
No comments, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Elder.
No comments, thank you.
Commissioner Olsman.
Said enough.
We're getting through this quick. I just want to make one comment. One of our Huntington Woods residents, Tim Yankee, was named the official artist of the National Cherry Blossom Festival and was the grand marshal in the parade in Washington DC a couple weeks ago. It's quite an honor. His artwork was all over town. Char and I went and watched him in the parade and met with him afterwards. And it was a great honor for him. Great to see his artwork all over the city of Washington DC, and I just want to throw out a congratulations to him for that. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.